Hello and welcome to Stupid Ancient History with Midgley
and Taylor and our expert, non-expert and special guest James, Lord High Commander of the Science Cupboard, first of his name and knower of nothing.
Hello.
And it's our 100th episode.
Woohoo!
Yay! Woo!
Woo!
And Paul?
Didn't quite have the glug 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 I was hoping
doesn't,
for.
It's because it's plastic.
Oh, never mind.
Nothing but the finest crystal. Oh. Chin chin everyone.
Salud.
Chin chin internet.
Cheers!
So, as always, we're wearing togas, we're eating olives, we're drinking the finest sparkling water. And today we're going to answer the question, who are the Tribunes of the Plebs?
I don't know.
You're meant to know
I'm
that.
about to say, it's okay I don't know. You should definitely know.
Previously on Stupid Ancient History, we've been looking at the changing fortunes of the early Roman Republic.
After they'd finally managed to overthrow the tyrannical king Lucius Tarquinius Superbus.
They just locked him out. I'm sick of you saying this
out.
like it was important.
That counts.
It was important, but it was like heroic in any way.
Heroically changed the locks. And anyway, how almost immediately after his expulsion, Superbus began plotting for his return, ultimately leading to the Wars of Independence.
Where, with the help of various mates and other city-states, he attacked Rome 3 times until he finally died.
At the ripe old age of 1,000,000.
Yeah.
90, not a million. But despite the 3 successive victories, the Wars of Independence had significant impact on this little fledgling state.
Yeah, basically because the plebs started to kick off because they weren't happy.
They weren't happy at all. And as a result of the increasing war debt, a lack of representation in the government, the plebs started the first secession.
That was strike.
Yeah, but you have to remember, I'm fancy, like we talked about this last week.
Yep.
Obviously.
Yes, yes.
But back to the point anyway. The secession was finally brought to an end as the Senate finally agreed to consider the plight of the plebs.
About time. It's going to go horribly wrong, I'm guessing. So, Tribune of the Plebs. Are they finally actually doing something nice for the plebs?
Well, that's the idea, yes.
Okay.
You are, of course, correct.
After they won a couple wars that they were promised,
They've done a few things.
They were promised loads of stuff, never got it.
Yeah, don't get too excited though.
All right.
Yeah, you are of course correct. The introduction of the Tribune of the Plebs was one of the settlements that follows the first secession. Strike.
Yes.
Right.
Or as Livy puts it,
Negotiations were then entered upon for an agreement which was arrived at, the terms being that the plebs should have their own magistrates who were to be untouchable and who should have the rights of offering protection against the consuls.
Okay, so they actually have some legal protections.
yeah, but there's more.
And further, no patrician should be allowed to hold that office.
Okay, so it is actually a pleb who's going to be...
Yeah.
Actual plebs.
Yeah, it's an actual
with an
pleb.
actual job.
Wow.
I know.
That's pretty good.
I know. It seems all fell nice and good, doesn't it? But the clause that no patricians should be able to hold the office, it's obviously there to please the plebs.
But also annoy the patrician senators as well.
Yeah.
Because they're letting the plebs into their exclusive club, but they're not actually having control over that specific domain.
They don't like people getting in on their thing.
Well, no, but that's the whole thing.
It is the whole
They've kept
point.
them out for so long.
They don't like him. But there is, saying that no patrician can hold the job, there is still a slight grey area as to who could be tribune.
Yeah. So whilst patricians are in theory not allowed to hold the office, there is still a lack of clarity around whether an equestrian could hold the role of tribune.
Does that still exist? Because that kind of blurred away
Well,
now?
they've become conscripty, but again, the use of the word patrician rather than senator.
Right, okay.
The patricians are still the very, very top. There's like the conscripti. They're not really patricians, but they are.
But
if someone really wanted to wangle it,
the wording of this leaves it open for them to be consul.
yeah.
Right. So the plebs have their own magistrate.
Yeah.
What do they do?
So initially, there are 2 tribunes of the plebs who are elected.
So they've got two?
Two.
Wow.
And to help them, the tribunes appoint 3 colleagues to help them discharge their power. So it's quite a little posse, isn't it, that they've got going on?
It is. So the patricians seem to know like 1, and they've actually got 5 people.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, it's more like 2 actual tribunes and 3 advisors.
Why are they... you know what? It's the Romans. That's why they're making it complicated. But
It's
it's
the
the
Romans.
Romans.
Yeah. So although the tribunes really didn't have any kind of input into the running of Rome, they did hold quite potentially significant power.
Yeah, so firstly, their position was sacrosanct, meaning that they were, as Livy called it, untouchable.
I was going to ask about that. What does that mean?
Well,
It's
it
in a
means
good
it
way.
In a good way, yeah. No one could bring harm to a sitting tribune,
Okay.
so they couldn't hurt them, basically.
Right. Okay. It's not like they're immune from prosecution or anything.
No, but
Right.
you can't harm a sitting tribune of the plebs.
Right.
They
Okay.
don't like that. They also have the power to prosecute officials for any wrongdoing, especially in regard to the plebs. So if you've been mean to the plebs,
They can just sue you. What powers do they have?
to prosecute. We'll
Right,
get
okay.
into that in a bit.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so if it wasn't enough, the tribunes also had the power of veto, but this seems to be mostly kind of over the actions of the other tribune. So they couldn't...
So is there a senior tribune then and a lesser one?
No, it's
or-
like the
No.
consuls.
So they're just like on par with each other, but
Yeah.
one can override the other.
Yeah, but it's quite interesting that they can't override.
The
Anyone
consuls or
higher
the
up.
senate.
So they can't override the patricians.
They can only override
each
the
other.
other.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So there's still that kind of class limit, isn't there? It's like, yeah, you might know better than a fellow pleb,
yeah.
but you don't know better than us because we're patricians. So,
Okay.
that
Yeah,
kind
so
of thing.
even if the senate are passing a law oppressing the plebs, it seems they can't veto that.
No.
They can only veto each other.
Okay.
You're not sounding convinced.
I assume this will make sense at some point.
Probably not. So, whilst the creation of the Tribune of the Plebs seemed to be a step forward, step in the right direction, the actual use of their powers is a bit more problematic.
Of course it is. Of course it wouldn't be straightforward. How was it problematic? Examples.
Well, we're going to tell you. We've got a few.
There are,
Okay.
yeah. So, the first example of the Tribunes being less than effective than desired came straight after the first secession.
Strike.
So, one impact of the secession was that Rome was hit by a famine.
Okay.
And as Livy puts it,
The Commonwealth was attacked by another much more serious evil. First, the cost of food, owing to the fields remaining unfarmed during the secession.
Okay. So everyone was hungry.
yeah, no one had been doing any work because they were on strike, so
They
there
were
was
on
no
strike.
food.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so in an attempt to avoid mass starvation and the collapse of Rome, the consuls ordered envoys to be sent out of Rome to buy as much surplus grain as they could.
Mm-hmm.
Some even went as far as Sicily.
I assume this is Sicily.
Sicily.
It's not some ancient Sicily that doesn't exist anymore.
No, actual Sicily.
It's miles away.
Yeah, it is, but it's because a lot of their neighbours that were closer to home still hated them.
So
So they
won't give
couldn't
them
go
any.
there.
No
That's
grain
the
for you, Rome. Sicily's got some. It's just down there.
So did wider Italy not have a problem with Rome?
no,
With-
they've
with-
not started messing with them yet.
But they still didn't see this evil republic and go, no, none of you.
No.
Okay.
They're just cool.
Okay, so they're going around Italy buying up grain to stop from starving to
Yeah.
death. I assume there are problems. There always are with these things.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea, but yeah, it's going wrong. So a lot of it has to do with a man called Coriolanus.
I also will warn you, I will not remember that name.
Coriolanus.
No, I will not remember.
Oh,
So, Livy says, amongst the most distinguished of the young soldiers in their camp at that time was Cnaeus Marcius, a brave young man who afterwards received the nickname of Coriolanus.
Okay,
Yeah.
what does it mean if he's
Well-
got a nickname?
so he's a patrician.
Okay.
He's named after a battle that he fights in where he's terribly brave.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a patrician, he's a senator, and this bit of a war hero. So all round, kind of ticking a lot of good boxes for the patricians. But he has very, very rigid ideas about how this grain is distributed.
I'm assuming equally amongst all Romans.
Well, he also has quite strong ideas about the existence of the Tribune of the Plebs as well.
I mean,
He's not a particularly progressive chap.
no, I mean, I assumed he was going to be nice, and then you just turned that around immediately.
Yeah, so one thing he particularly doesn't like is that one of the people that the tribunes appoint as their colleagues, one of this gang of three,
Yeah.
is Sicinius, the man who led the plebs onto the Sacred Mount during the first secession.
Okay, so What?
Really not a fan of that.
Just because the plebs were trying to get equal, well, not equal
He
rights,
saw
but some rights.
Sicinius as it's this trouble causer.
He was the
and-
ringleader, kind of.
Yeah, and now he's in government, so he's not happy about that.
So yeah, he delivers a speech in the Senate, and this, according to Livy, is what he says. So he says, if he argued, they want their corn at the old price, let them restore to the Senate its old powers. Why, then, do I see plebeian magistrates? Why do I see a Sicinius in power? Am I to endure these indignitaries a moment longer than I can help? Am I, who could not put up with a Tarquin as king, to put up with a Sicinius?
Right, so if you want food,
Get rid of these
get
guys.
rid of the magistrates.
Get rid of the tribunes.
But there's more. It
Of course.
goes on.
Right, okay.
So, let them secede now. Let him call out his plebeians. The way lies open to the sacred hill and to other hills. Let them carry off the corn from our fields as they did 2 years ago. Let them enjoy the famine which in their madness they have produced.
But
So pretty much off you go. Shoot plebs.
But
Shoot
then who's going to make the corn? Well, not make the corn, reap the corn for them.
some other guys.
Okay, this guy seems like a bit of a moron.
Yep.
So these magistrates have gotten these powers to kind of smooth over the problems between the patricians and the plebs. And now this Coriolanus guy is just ruining everything by the sounds of it. Do the tribunes do anything about it?
Well,
Can they do anything about it?
sort of,
Okay.
but not really. So the plebs are obviously really quite angry about what's happening.
Not surprised.
Yeah, and Livy puts it like this.
The Senate considered these sentiments too bitter. The plebeians in their anger almost flew to arms. Famine, they said, was being used as a weapon against them, as though they were enemies. They were being cheated out of food. I can understand their frustration. If someone tried to cheat me out of food, then I would kill them.
Yeah.
Wow. You make a good Roman.
So you get this idea that outside the Senate House, there's all these swarms of plebs going around hungrily, quite angry.
So they said the rest of the senators didn't seem quite as on board
Yeah.
with his plan. Is that they're a bit more progressive, or they just know they need to keep the plebs happy?
I think they can hear the scratching at the door.
Okay.
They're frightened of being eaten. There's a fat one over there. He'll taste it.
Just exactly how it happens. So anyway, the tribunes can't really do anything. So what they do, they use their position to incite the plebs, basically as close to open revolt as they can get, just to kind of pressure the Senate to go their way. But the Senate are still not keen to budge. They're not convinced, and Livy puts it like this.
They had the right of protecting, not of punishing. They were the tribunes of the plebs, not of the patricians. But the anger of the plebeians was so bad that the patricians could only save themselves by the punishment of one of their order.
Okay.
So yeah, the tribunes can't actually do anything to the Senate. It seems this is this area where they're saying for the plebs, not us.
Yeah.
You have no authority. You have no power here, tribunes.
All right, Jackie Weaver.
That's not good a wage, but
That's not. No, it's probably already an outdated reference.
Like, who's Jackie Weaver? What role is she?
yeah. So this idea, the Senate is sticking to their idea that the tribunes can't actually bring Coriolanus or anyone to trial because it's not their job.
Yeah.
So the tribunes are having to rile up the plebs. So this is one of these grey areas. But needless to say, the hungry plebs outside, they're not having any of that.
So as a result, the Senate, rather than facing another angry mob, decided to offer up Coriolanus for trial and set fair grain prices to avoid further unrest.
Did it stop the unrest?
Well, sort of.
Church, what were they putting on trial for?
For being a douche.
Okay.
Did you not hear his speech?
Is that an actual crime?
You can starve or get out. So they're going to put him on trial for being a big meanie.
A big meanie.
That's actual
A
Latin
nasty
law.
pasty.
Yeah. But again, it doesn't really work.
Okay.
Because rather than standing trial, Coriolanus flees to the Volsci and starts winding them up to go and attack Rome some more.
Oh, God.
Yes. So it's not exactly the best example of tribunes helping the plebs, is it?
No,
We're
not
going to
really.
put this guy on trial. Which guy? Oh, it's gone.
See that trail of smoke going away.
So yeah, not successful.
Great.
So the next example of the Tribunes acting is in 486 under the consulship of Spurius Cassius.
Okay. What would they do?
Well, around this time, one of the biggest complaints the plebeians had was around land ownership, so they wanted land distribution.
Is this in Rome or around it?
In and around Rome, yeah. And having the ear of the plebs, obviously, the tribunes called for a series of agrarian laws to make land distribution fairer. So they couldn't pass the laws themselves, but they can formally ask for these things.
That seems pretty fair.
Yeah. So at the time, Rome had just taken a new patch of territory from a local enemy called the Henici.
Henici, yeah. And the consul Cassius decided this would be a good opportunity to kind of bolster his support amongst the plebs, make everyone happy by offering them half of this new land and the other half to the Latins.
Okay.
You know, get everyone on side.
Seems fair.
Yeah, but then Livy chips in.
Oh.
So this alarmed many of the patricians who were the actual occupiers, taking their property. On public grounds too, they felt anxious as they considered that by this action the consul was building up a power dangerous to liberty. Then for the first time an agrarian law was proposed, and never from that day to the times within our own memory has one been suggested without the most tremendous fuss.
Right, okay.
So obviously, passing agrarian law is the first step on the road to tyranny.
Fair enough. So the Tribune suggested they give half this land to the plebs.
Yeah, not all of the land, just some.
Just half of it. Senate aren't keen.
Nope.
What happens?
Well, they see this as, like we said, this is a way, obviously, of building tyranny. It's not that they're obsessed with that or anything.
No. What about the other consul? Can they just go, no?
They could do, but he seems to be the dominant guy. So it seems like there's a kind of a dominant consul and a kind of backup.
Doesn't that, undermine the very, concept of it?
Yeah, it's almost like it's good for tyranny. So anyway, so the Senate are in no way keen on this. They say it's building tyranny, particularly this idea of agitating the masses against the Senate. The Senate fear that he is gonna get the plebs to rise up against them.
But the only way they're agitating plebs is if they don't give them that land. So he was being nice.
Yep.
If they take it away, that they're going to wind them up. So just let them have it.
Well,
no. So they see the offer of land and cheap grain as a bribe.
So not even the plebs are buying this.
Right,
so
okay.
the price of a throne is something that's said, and that Cassius is trying to use them to establish himself as king. So they hate him as well.
Right, okay. How often do they go to This Is Tyranny? And
Pretty much every second Wednesday, it seems.
yeah, is it just their inbuilt response to anyone
This is tyranny. This is tyranny.
anyone doing anything? Tyrant.
Absolutely, yeah. So Cassius's plan to infer the support completely backfires on him, and ends up with everyone now accusing him of trying to steal power. The plebs hate him, the Senate hate him, passing goats hate him.
Wow.
And Livy says this.
It is generally said that immediately upon his leaving office, he was condemned and put to death. Some say that his own father was person who punished him, that he tried him privately at home, and after scourging him, put him to death and gave his private property to
Ceres,
Who's Ceres?
the goddess of the harvest.
Ah, okay. So
Did we skip the bit where his own dad hated him
I was
so
about to
much
say,
he
his
killed
own
him?
dad whipped him.
I was going to say what
And then killed
scourging
him.
is that whipping.
Whipping.
Right.
Wow.
So, in the history of bad ideas,
It's not great.
it's not.
In the history of bad fathers, I'd say that he comes up quite high.
Mm,
I mean, you've told me about some who are
Yeah.
worse than that.
yeah. And let's not forget Zeus. So yeah, in summary, the tribunes have tried to make things better for the plebs, but the resistance of the Senate and the consul make this impossible.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, the consul, who arguably could have been trying to improve their lives, was executed.
Was flogged by his dad.
That
and
is
then
so
killed.
stupid. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
They don't deserve to be given land. They deserve to starve to death and have nowhere to live.
Harsh.
Idiots.
Harsh. So yeah, the Tribunes have tried making things better.
It's not
Backfired spectacularly.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a pattern emerging here.
Yep.
The Tribunes try and do something nice.
Yep.
Doesn't go down well because the patricians are getting in the way.
Bang on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next example of, shall we say, less than successful tribunician powers.
Okay.
Nice word, though, isn't it?
Tribunician, that is a good word.
Comes in 473 with the case of Valero Publius.
That's a good name.
So Publius was a pleb who refused to join the army as an ordinary soldier.
Does he have that choice?
No.
Okay. He just goes, no.
Well, sort of, yeah. I mean, he previously served...
They look so cool, though.
Yeah, but
He
no,
just
he
didn't
was
like the outfit.
Oh,
Clearly.
okay.
Wasn't his colour.
Yeah, partly because he had previously served in the army as an officer. So he saw joining as a common soldier being a bit of an insult.
If he'd been in the army, why did he have to rejoin?
Because Rome was at war with someone else again.
Okay.
Why
fair
wouldn't
enough.
they be at war with someone else?
Okay.
So yeah, he's called into the army. He refuses to join as an ordinary soldier because he was an officer.
Okay.
He liked the officer outfits, not the
Fair
ordinary
enough.
outfits. He sees this as an insult, and he's having none of it. The Senate are obviously in no mood to put up with this guy, so they send a lictor to punish him.
Okay. That's,
Lictors, you know, the
yeah,
bodyguards
they
with
were
the
the
axes,
king's guards, weren't they?
but they're now working for the consuls.
Right. Okay.
So this is where it all kicks off. As
Okay.
Livy puts it.
The consuls sent a lictor to him. Valerio appealed to the tribunes. None came to his assistance. So the consuls ordered him to be stripped, and the rods got ready. Sounds really wrong.
To beat him with.
You hope so.
I appeal to the people, he said, since the tribunes would rather see a Roman citizen scourged before their eyes than be murdered in their beds by you.
Okay.
So he's calling out the tribunes. The tribunes are
We're going, nah.
looking somewhere else. So yeah, he appeals to the crowd, and his appeals rile up the crowd. And as they're still not convinced about the tribunes, they're like, actually, that's a fair point. Why is he getting that? And you're sat there doing nothing. So they all start to kick off, and in the midst of this riot, Valero escapes from the lictor who's about to whip him. He escapes into the crowd and loudly declares,
Help fellow citizens, help fellow soldiers. You have nothing to expect from the tribunes. They themselves need your aid.
so yeah, he's calling out the tribunes more as being useless. So the riot kicks off, but because no one's really got a plan, the riot subsides.
Yeah.
And the Senate meet again and decide, well, what are they going to do about this Valero chap?
Just chop him up. Had enough of him.
Not quite. So they decided to let him off,
Oh.
and he becomes the next tribune of the plebs in 472.
So he was about to be flogged to death, presumably, and then he started a fight, and then he got a promotion to the Tribune.
Yeah,
It's worked out well for him.
it has, hasn't it?
So it doesn't sound too bad. Everything that's happened to what was his name?
Valero.
Yeah, other than narrowly escaping a rodding, it's all come up pretty well for him.
I also want to keep calling him Solero instead of Valero. That's just me.
Well, I thought you already had a Solero. Wasn't that a people?
No.
Cornetto. It's something to do with an ice lolly.
Solero.
So anyway, yeah, so he's going quite well for Valero. It's not too bad for him.
No, well, the Senate are certainly less than happy about having this kind of rabble-rouser as a tribune.
Yeah, if they thought the other guy was bad, whoa, this guy's worse. And they're even less impressed with the reforms he suggests to the tribunary voting system. So he's in as tribune, and he's now...
And he's got ideas.
He's got ideas, as Livy puts it.
But he would deprive the patricians of all power of electing through their clients' votes those whom they wanted as tribunes. It was most welcome to the plebs, but the patricians resisted it to the utmost. They were unable to secure the one effectual means of resistance, namely pressing one of the tribunes through the influence of the consuls or the leading patricians to use his veto.
Right, okay.
So it's suggesting that up until this point, the patricians have been able to kind of sway the vote and decide who gets voted in
Yeah.
by basically threatening the plebs and throwing them off the land. You're going to go vote for this guy, aren't you? Not the angry one. You see that one that's a blanket? Vote for him. So the issue rumbles on, and there's no sign of it easing up in the following year.
So if the patricians had that much sway in the
Tribune and the
Tribune,
plebs.
yeah, being put in, how did Valero get in?
Because that influence had obviously been fading out.
Right,
Because of
okay.
everything that had happened. So it rumbles on, and in the following year, the plebs re-elect Valero.
Is this not like the consulars?
No, they can be
one
re-elected.
on, one off.
No, they can be
Okay.
elected. So again, so he's back, and he's not letting this go. It's really not looking good for him. So as a result, feeling things are getting a bit bad, the Senate elect...
Appius Claudius, son of Appius Claudius.
Right, okay, that's cleared that up.
So do you remember Appius Claudius was one of the consuls during the secession who said, let's crush the plebs with the army?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
his
guy.
son,
His son.
like-minded?
Yes, so it seems that the son actually hated the plebs even more than his dad.
Oh my god.
And he and Valero obviously clash quite violently.
I'm not surprised, like actual violent fights or...
Sadly not.
No.
Oh.
No. But the angry mobs gathering outside the Senate House were getting very close to it though. So
Right,
they were
okay.
getting like nearly to fisticuffs,
Well,
definitely.
yeah, because if the Senate have elected this guy, douchebag, son of other douchebag, they know exactly who he is. They're not
Douchebag
happy
the
about.
second. That's what my mum calls me.
Oh god.
No, because she's the eldest. She's the first.
I know.
So it's all coming to a head.
Mhm.
Does it all kick off?
Well, frustratingly, it doesn't. So the more the tribunes and consuls argue, the more unruly the mob get outside.
Okay.
Yeah. And in the end, Claudius's co-consul, a guy called Quintus, it's a rubbish name, pressures Claudius to accept the new law,
Okay.
to accept peace. So he gets him to back down.
Yeah, so Claudius does, and what are known as the Valero reforms are passed.
Mm-hmm.
So this means that now the plebs elect further tribunes, 3 are named rather than 2, to further strengthen their position.
All right. So they've actually gained a bit of
Yeah,
power.
so they're getting a bit more powerful.
It is, but again, their effectiveness is once again challenged.
Right. Okay.
So in 470, because of all this, his all-round scumbaggery, should we call it, to both the plebs in both peace and war.
Yeah, we should also point out that the Volscians attack again, and the army is sent to fight them again, and Claudius is not exactly nice to his plebeian troops.
Okay.
Again.
The flower of nobility. How can he possibly be nice to the troops?
Well, it turns out he's horrible as a military leader as well.
Right. Okay.
So due to his overall scumbag treatment of the plebs, Claudius is indicted by the plebs to stand trial.
Fair enough. He's earned it. So this is all quite high drama for the Romans, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's the consul being tried by the tribunes.
Yep.
Does it actually stick?
Well, the trial doesn't get off to a great start.
He doesn't leg it to a nearby enemy, does he?
No, he just simply refuses to acknowledge that this is a thing.
Yeah, so
Right. Okay.
he again points out that the tribune's role is to defend the plebs, not prosecute the patricians.
Yeah. Okay.
So the trial is suspended whilst the Senate debate whether this is the case or not. You know, can they prosecute him? They just don't know. Can the tribunes put him on trial?
So this didn't go down well with the people, and again, it kicks off in Rome.
Right. Yeah. Sounds about right.
So then they restart the trial.
Okay. And
Claudius.
Nothing happens.
does he continue to refuse that it's a thing?
In a way, because
Claudius died before the trial could restart.
Okay. How did he die? That
by just being angry,
he just
he
died.
just died. We don't
Heart
know the
attack.
details.
Right. Okay.
So once again, the tribunes are actually stopped from using their full powers because the Senate don't know what the powers are. Claudius thinks he knows what their powers are.
Should they not have sorted hammered these details out before they gave these powers to people.
No, clearly. So people are still none the wiser about whether the Tribunes can actually challenge the Senate, and the one case where they could actually possibly bring this to a head.
The guy just died. Great. So we're kind of going round in circles with this, yeah?
Yeah.
Can it just stop?
Nearly.
Nearly.
One more example to go.
Right, okay. Give it to me. Let's see what happens.
So the final example of power, or not, of the Tribunes comes with a man called Gaius Terentilius.
Now that's another good name.
It is a good name.
Not related to Quinton Terentilius.
No.
So, in 467, another man, a senator called Quintus Fabius, proposed that land be taken from the Volsci, those guys who just keep attacking.
Are they defeated at this point? Or?
No, this is the 200-year war.
Okay, right.
So, land is taken from the Volsci and to be given to the plebs as like a new Roman colony.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this would start out the issue of land reform, but could also be used to kind of shuffle out some of the more aggro plebs to avoid further unrest.
Okay.
So let's get rid of the angry ones.
There's some free land. Just go away, leave us alone. So Terentilius, however, uses this debate to push a new agenda. And he's pushing for constitutional reform.
Okay.
Almost to kind of make sure everyone knows what the Tribunes
Nonsense.
do.
Burn him
Should have
alive.
done that first.
And he does something completely ridiculous and asks for a written constitution
Right,
to
okay.
clearly define the limit of the powers of the consul.
Okay. So
Yeah.
at this point, is it just kind of a nebulous idea, or?
Yeah, well, he's saying, we're getting confused. I don't know
Yeah.
what you do. You don't know what I do. Can we have a written constitution? Maybe something we could refer back to in times of strife.
So he claimed that they had acted more like kings than representatives, and as they were both currently out of Rome dealing with the war, he was able to challenge their power.
How are they acting more like kings?
Well, somewhere, weren't they? Some, like Claudius were.
Yeah. So they don't like some of the consuls who are, like Claudius was basically saying, let's get rid of the plebs.
Yeah.
They don't like that idea.
Okay. So what happens?
Well, there's a furious debate in the Senate,
Okay.
with Fabius calling Terentilius a traitor.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it?
Yeah,
Throw some harsh words at him.
pretty much.
This is far more mundane than I was hoping for.
Oh, sorry.
I came here for blood and war.
Sorry, James, but long story short, to calm everything down, the Senate said that they would look into Terentilius' ideas, but would need to seek more information before voting.
So they're doing nothing, basically.
Yep.
Where are they going to get more information from?
Doesn't matter. It's exactly how you deal with an angry toddler.
Right.
You delay it until they get bored or forget, or you just distract them.
Right, okay, great.
So once again, despite the best efforts of the Tribunes, the Senate blocked, avoided, ignored and palmed off the demands of the people.
Okay.
Yeah, and so despite a lot of upheaval, lots of comings and goings, some unrest, some arguably minor reforms, the plebs are still pretty much no better off than they were before.
No. Doesn't sound like much has changed.
So after all that, there are obviously key issues we need to look at. I mean, the first one is all these different attempts to try and get more power for the plebs, which ultimately has not worked.
It's done nothing, basically.
It's done. I mean, there's been some progress, but it's been teeny tiny progress.
Yeah.
It's just paying them lip service, though, isn't it? It's this idea that you've got this now, it's like, let's give them this thing. Can't really do anything. It's not going to make much difference, but
it
they
looks
think
nice.
they've got
Yeah,
something, so now maybe they'll shut up, and they just underestimate the strength of feeling amongst the plebs and the fact that they're so angry with how they're being treated.
Yeah, but I mean, the right to, they're basically starved. You would be a bit angry.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the Tribunes, you can argue they're a bit like the Emperor's new clothes. People are telling the plebs, this is great. No, these guys can do anything. They can fly.
Yeah.
Turns out they can't even open a door.
No.
Yeah, so there's limited progress. So if we look at this an idea of continuity and change, very little has changed in terms of plebeian rights. They keep trying and pushing for plebeian rights, but every single time,
Yeah,
the
getting
Senate
that
knock
back.
them back out of the park.
Maybe perhaps, giving away the ending here, do they ever get anything resembling any rights?
Not really.
We're talking small steps.
Right.
Small
But
steps.
do a lot of small steps add up to one big step, or is it just lots and
Just
lots?
lots of small steps. I mean, it is worth pointing out that a lot of this discussion, Livy's discussion about the Tribune of the Plebs, is probably heavily based on arguments around the Tribunes of the Plebs from his time. That role doesn't go away.
Okay.
That continues right
Yeah.
through into the late Republic, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's still there, like with Augustus, and then it carries on after that. So the
So
Tribune of the Plebs is still something that's really
So does it continue into
important.
the emperors?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it's the one role that really most emperors don't tend to take on that often. It's something that is predominantly kept for, the plebs, supposedly.
To keep them on side.
Yeah.
It may be lip service, but,
So they get tribunician power, don't they, the further you
Yeah.
go along, but it's never really the Tribune of the Plebs, it's slightly different. So
They
it
have
still
power,
kind
but
of is
not-
kept.
but not important power.
Yeah.
That's really it, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
they've got some power, but they can't make any of the big changes. And we've seen that here. The overall effectiveness, all right, they can prosecute people to protect the plebs, but
not.
it seems not the Senate.
No.
They can
And-
veto what one of their own is saying, but they can't veto someone that's higher up the social scale than they are.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just paying lip service, really.
Yeah, you can see, at best, you can see it as a step in the right direction that isn't well thought through and doesn't really work. But if you want to look at it more darkly, it's this. There you go, plebs. There's your consular powers now. Do one, and watch as I steal all your food.
It fits in though, doesn't it, with like reoccurring themes that we see, which is there is an element throughout this with the Republic, and then when you get to the Emperors, there's this element kind of running through of a facade in terms of how much power people actually have and how much power other people think that they've got, because that is something that keeps going.
Yeah.
Like for the start of the Emperors anyway, there's still this idea that the Senate have still got power when it's a facade. They haven't. The Senate are then just used and kind of paid lip service to.
Like the Tribunes.
Yeah, like the Tribune. So it just kind of keeps moving up the scale as you go through.
Yeah, so small steps, some little changes, not enough to be effective. And just in case we'd forgotten, there's still always the issue of tyranny.
Yeah.
So, there you have it, our quick look at who were the Tribune of the Plebs. Thank you for listening to our 100th episode.
Yay!
We hope it's been useful. Leave us a comment below, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye!
Bye.